Namaste. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. We are going to finish up chapter 6 today. So I'd like to offer my respects to you. Thank you for tuning in. Offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master Jagat Guru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa and to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Let's begin chanting. Haribo, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Was born in the darkness of ignorance of my spiritual master. Open my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances to him. Haribo. Okay. So we are continuing chapter 6. I have something in my eyelash or something. We are reading. So Arjuna is asking questions, because Krishna had laid out a very lengthy and detailed version of types of meditation that is where the yogi will meditate on the Lord in the heart. And Arjuna was like, this is a very difficult, and the mind is very difficult to control, like trying to control the wind, And so Krishna tells Arjuna that it's possible with perseverance and practice. And then Arjuna asks about the transcendentalist who, while practicing his spiritual path, is taken away or falls down and is influenced by the material nature to give up the practice of spiritual life, of bhakti yoga or whatever the practice might be. And his question was, is it in vain? Is all of his spiritual merit dry up like a riven cloud? Does it float away? Is there something else? And so, as a true disciple, Arjuna is asking him, I have this doubt, and I need you to dispel this doubt because you are my spiritual master, which is what the disciple will do in the case of wanting to understand the spiritual truth and spiritual wisdom. So this is text 40. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Partha Naheva Naiveya Namutra Vinashashtasya Vijate Nahi Kalyana Hikrit Kashid Durgatim Tata Gachyati. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Partha, O son of Pritha, Na eva, never is it so, Iha, in this material world, Na, never, Amutra, in the next life, Vinashaha, destruction, Tasha, his, Vijate, exists, Na, never, he, certainly, Kalyana Krit, one who is engaged in auspicious activities, Kashit, anyone, Durgatim, degradation, Tata, thereafter, Gachati, going. Translation: the Blessed Lord said, Son of Prita, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So part of the answer he gives is that even the little, because it is said in the chapter 2 that even a little bit of devotional service can save the living entity from a great deal of fear and uncertainty, because the activities that is done in Krishna consciousness, done for Krishna, is never lost. So this is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna, that does not meet with destruction. The transcendentalist doesn't meet with destruction. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 5th canto, 17th verse, Sri Narada Muni instructs Vyasa Dev as follows: Tavaktiva Sva Dharmam Charanam Bujam Harir Bhajan Apako Ta Patet Tato Yadi Yatra Kva Vabratram Abud Amushyat Kim Ko Varta Apo Apto Bhajatam Sva Dharma Ta If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. So the idea is that most of the things that we do in the material world, they take a lot of effort, and a lot of people will spend their whole life obtaining, musical talent or, finances or studying certain things. But at the time of death, that's all lost. Whereas the activities done for Krishna is not lost. It's not, even though with the death of the body, the spirit soul carries forward its spiritual progress into its next life. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction of not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction of not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. So there have been examples. King Bharat, as we all know in the story of Jada Bharat, he became attached to a deer in affection when he was trying to meditate and leave his body to go to the Vaikuntha planets. And he became diverted in his attention from meditation to worrying about this deer, so he was thinking about the deer all this time. But the activities he had done in spiritual activities were never lost. In his next life as a deer, he was aware that he was formerly King Bharat, but he was in the body of a deer. So he just lived out his life accordingly and remembered, so that when he came into his next life, he was able to, I think that as a deer, he actually, I believe he associated with devotees of Krishna. He would eat the remnants of I believe that was that story. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section. So that's most people in the Kali Yuga. And those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because, enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and thus gradually rise to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are then following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely, 1, the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. Number 2, those who are trying to find out the ultimate liberation from material existence. And number 3, those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. those who are fruitive workers, and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under the severe austerity. And because the Eightfold System Yoga is directed towards the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. So, Krishna had been talking about some different kinds of means by which one would attain Krishna consciousness. And so, because it is aiming with the goal of Krishna consciousness, there is no loss in the practice, even though a person may fall down from it. Text 41. Prapta punya kritam lokam ushitva shashvatihi samaha shuchinam Srimatam gehe yoga blasto bijayate prapya, after achieving punya krityam, of those who performed pious activities, lokan, planets, ushitva, after dwelling, shashvatihi, many, samaha, years, shuchinam, of the pious, srimatam, of the prosperous, gehe, in the house of yoga brishtaha, one who has fallen from the path of self-realization. Abhijayate, takes his birth. Translation. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Purport. The unsuccessful yogis are divided into two classes. One is fallen after very little progress, and one is fallen after long practice of yoga. The yogi who falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planets, where the pious living entities are allowed to enter. After prolonged life there, he is sent back to this planet to take birth in a family of a righteous Brahmana Vaishnava, or of aristocratic merchants. The real purpose of yoga practice is to achieve the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness. But those who do not persevere to such an extent and fail to, due to material allurements, are allowed by the grace of the Lord to make full utilization of their material propensities. And after that, they are given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness. So the idea is that if a person is born into an aristocratic family, they'll have the economic means to be able to, and very oftentimes, in the Hindu society, people who are very wealthy will still be practicing Hindu rules and regulations, and so that the person will be able to go further, or they may be born into Vaishnava families or Brahmana families where they still have an opportunity to make more progress. So the bottom line is, of course, that the answer is no. Nothing is lost. There is nothing lost there. Atam yoginam eva kule bhavati di matam etadi dura bharatam pataram loke janma yad idrisham. Athava, or yoginam, of learned transcendentalists, eva, certainly, kule, in the family of, bhavati, takes birth, di matam, of those who are endowed with great wisdom, etat, this, he, certainly, durlabhataram, very rare, loke in this world, janma birth, yat that which, idulisham like this. Or he, translation, text 42, or he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. That's a fortunate thing. If you didn't follow through, but you were born again into a transcendentalist family, then you'd have another opportunity very easily. Purport: birth in a family of yogis or transcendentalists, those with great wisdom, is praised herein because a child born in such a family receives spiritual impetus from the very beginning of his life. But it's also made point that my spiritual master has made, that while a person is very fortunate to be born into a family of devotees, it doesn't guarantee that they will surrender to Krishna. And sometimes they will sort of take cheaply the great fortune that they have to be born. I mean, out of just millions and millions of people, to be born into a family of devotees is very rare. And so one should not take it so lightly, but should be very grateful for their opportunity to be protected such. It is especially the case in the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India, there are many Acharya families, but they have now degenerated due to insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately for both our spiritual masters, Om Vishnupad Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self, had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord. And both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of the transcendental system. Text 43. Tatra tambuti samyogam labate parava dehikam yatate cha tato bhuyaha samshita kuru nandana. Tatra thereupon, tam that, buddhi samyogam revival of such consciousness, labate regains, parava previous, dehikam bodily consciousness, yatate endeavors, cha also, tata thereafter, bhuyaha again, samshidao for perfection, kuru nandana, O son of Kuru. On taking such a birth, he again revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. So good ending, right? So eventually he'll get it right, so that we can do, even if we hear Krishna's names one time, chant Krishna's names, we are already on the path. We are on the path. It may take many, many, many lives, but we are on the path. King Bharat, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmana, is an example of a good birth for the revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharat was the emperor of the world since his time. This planet is known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Formerly it was known as Ilvartavarsha. The emperor at an early age retired for spiritual perfection, but it failed to achieve success. So that was the example of when he became fixated with a deer, taking care of a deer by the river. In his next life, he took birth in a family of a good Brahmana and was known as Jada Bharat. So after he came back as a deer, and then he lived his life as a deer, and in his next life he became known as Jada Bharat, the pure devotee of Krishna, because he was always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. So Jada Bharat knew of his past lives. So when he was born, he became a recluse, and he pretended like he was a fool and an idiot, so that people would leave him alone, and he wouldn't be contaminated by material life. Later on, he was discovered by the greatest as the greatest transcendentalist by King Raghu Gana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalists get repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. So that's what Jada Bharat, of course, was solicited to be the pallbearer of King Raghunanda, Rahugana, and he was trying not to step on any kind of living entities, and so the cart was, wobbling, and he was getting chastised by King Rahugana, but eventually Jada Bharat spoke to him as a spiritual master. First time he had spoken in that life in the body of Jada Bharat, and became the spiritual master of King Rahugana. It's a very wonderful story from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 44. Purva Bayashena Tenaiva Hriyate Hrivasho Pishaha Jignashurapi Yogasya Shabda Brahmati Vartate Purva previous. Abhyashena practice, tena, by the influence of that. Eva, certainly. Hriyate is attracted. He, certainly. Avashya, helpless. Api, also. Saha, he. Jignashuhu, willing to know. Api, so. Yogasya, of yoga. Shabda Brahma, ritualistic principles of scripture. Ati Vartate, transcends. Translation, text 44. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist striving for yoga stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So wherever he's born, they've made that progress. People sometimes come into the material world and they just have a little bit of karma to burn off. And my friend's son was 10 years old and just recently left his body. And so that was, people just have, that's a little bit they have to still do, or, whatever they have to do, because they've come through there. You haven't seen the backstory, right? There's a backstory of where they've come from. You think, oh, why is it that, this has happened to this person, or why this person's a good person, why does this child have cancer? Well, there's a backstory for the living entities. They've done things in their previous lives, good and bad, and they've accrued karmic reactions for the things that they've done in the previous lives, which is really sort of unseen. It's kind of like, the actor who plays many parts. He plays a part and then he goes off the stage and then takes another part, and it's the same actor, but it's a different part, it's like, so purport. Advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to create complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 33rd chapter, 8th verse, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalist is explained as follows. Aho bhata svapacho to gariyan yaji hivarge vatate nama tubhyam te push tapaste juhu vuhu sashnur arya Brahmana nur chur namagrinante yete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your Lordship are far, far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog-eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. So, like I said, there's a backstory. People have done auspicious, inauspicious things. They've done the rules and regulations to come to a point where they might be, chanting Krishna's names, but there's a backstory to that. Why are they chanting Krishna's names in this life, and why are not other people interested in chanting? because of the spiritual progress of the person. But we still share our Krishna's names with everyone. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principles of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas, known as Shabda Brahman. Unless, therefore, one is purified, one cannot take to the principles of the Krishna consciousness nor become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Text 45. Prayadnad Yatamanashtu Yogi Shamshuddha Kilbishaha Aneka Janma Samshidash Tatoyati Param Gatim. Prayatnat, by rigid practice. Yatamana, one who endeavors. To, but. Yogi, such a transcendentalist. Samshuddha, washed off. Kilbishaha, all kinds of sins. Aneka, many. Janma, births. Samshidaha, so achieved perfection. Tata, thereafter. Yati, attains. Param, highest. Gatim, destination. Translation 45. But when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, and ultimately, after many births of practice, he attains his supreme goal. So eventually he makes progress. And eventually he comes to his goal, where he was headed before. Purport. A person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. One who is finally freed from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the supreme stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yesham tavantva gatam papam jananam punya karmanam te davandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drita rajtaha. After many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one then becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So pious activities, being freed from contaminations, and this is in this day and age. Many before there were certain kinds of rules and regulations and bathing and fire sacrifices and things like that you would have to do to purify yourself. But in this day and age, the chanting of Krishna's names is so powerful, it can purify the living entity so quickly. And so it is the goal, and it is the means. Text 46. Tapas vibhyo diko yogi gani bhyo pi mato dika karmi bayas chadadiko yogi tasmad yogi bharvajuna tapas vibhya, then the ascetic, adhika, greater, yogi, the yogi, jnanabiya, then the wise, api, also, mataha, considered, adhikaha, greater than, karmibiya, then the fruit of worker, cha, also, adhikaha, greater than, yogi, the yogi, tasmat, therefore, yogi, a transcendentalist, Baba, just become, Arjuna, O Arjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. So the yogi, the person immersed in devotion to God, is greater than the ascetic who practices merging into the Brahman, greater than the empiricist, the Jnana Yoga, who's trying to use his mind to, and greater than the fruitive worker, the person who is actually trying to enjoy the results of his work. The yogi is the greatest. So therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. There's Krishna's telling Arjuna to be a true yogi, not just to go off and be an ascetic in the forest. He was thinking he was going to be a yogi in the forest and meditate. But what does it really mean to be a yogi? When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking up our consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. So Krishna is saying, link up with me in service by fighting for me, not by going off and, focusing on your tip of your nose in the forest and whatever. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking of process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called karma yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called jnana yoga. And when it is predominantly in a devotional relationship with the Lord, it is called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, or Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas, as will be explained in the next verse. The Lord confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and as such, nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empirical knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. It's very important. So without all the Krishna consciousness, all these practices of asceticism, empirical knowledge, and fruitive work is just a complete waste of time. Therefore, it's a self-centered practice, actually. You're not doing it for Krishna. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance performed... Sorry, I'm just tripping over my mouth here. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is bhakti yoga, and this is still more clearly explained in the next verse. Yes, the next verse, and then chapter 7 will also go further more into bhakti yoga. Text 47. Yoginam api sharvesham mad gate nantarat mana shradavan bhajate shradavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Yoginam, of all yogis, api also, sharvesham, all types of, mat gatena, abiding in me, antaha atmana, always thinking of me within, Shradavan, in full faith, Bhajate, renders transcendental loving service, Ya, one who, Mam, me, the Supreme Lord, Saha, he, Me, mine, Yukta, Yuktatma, Yukta Tamaha, there we go, the greatest yogi, Mataha, is considered. Translation, text 47. And of all yogis, he who abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Wow, that's such a beautiful verse. I want to read that again. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. This just really runs together so beautifully. That's why I read through the full verse before, and I would recommend, when I get them all done, you can listen to one read through after another of all the chapters, because you can see how the whole story kind of unfolds. It's really nice to take each verse and read the purport and analyze it and whatnot, but it's also really wonderful to see the full unfolding of this story by the full reading. Purport: the word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the word bhaj, which is used when there is need of service. Bhajam. So English translates this as worship. And Bhaktivedanta makes a point about why the word worship is not the best, because it has to do with bhaj, which has to do with service, to the devotional service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaja. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one, but service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshiping a respectful man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam confirms this as follows: Yasham Purusham Shakshad Atma Prabhavam Ishvaram Na Bhajanti Avanjanati Stanad Varashtas Patanti Adaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duties unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse, also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other common living entity. The word avanjananti used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is also found in the Bhagavad Gita, avajananti mam mujaha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's very interesting. They have avajanti, which is deride. They don't worship. They don't serve Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. So that's very interesting. So they probably translate the word worship a lot in these commentators on the Bhagavad Gita. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are a means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, this stage is called Jnana yoga. When Jnana yoga increases in meditation on the supersoul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. Therefore, we have the Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna explains everything. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name: karma yogi, jnana yogi, or dhyana yogi, raja yogi, hatha yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of bhakti yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all the other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shamasundar, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded. illuminating all sides, and is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahmajyoti. He incarnates in different forms, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he descends like a human being as a son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. Beautiful. Such a beautiful paragraph. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti yoga, as confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yasha deve para bhaktir yata deve tata guru. Tashyate katita hi artaha prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Beautiful. Bhakti Rashir Bhajanam Tadiya Mudra Padi Narashayena Mushmin Manaha Kalpanam Etad Eva Nashkarmayam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. These are some of the means for performance of Bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of yoga's system. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Sankhya Yoga Brahma Vidya. And so that is the end of chapter 6. Really wonderful, just awesome. And we will next time read through chapter 7, which is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, which I believe gets into Bhakti Yoga more. So thank you very much. Namaste.